Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust. Broadcasting live presents Two Guys and a Bible with Don Preston and William Bell. Join us each week at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central as we bring you exciting, sound, challenging, and comforting messages regarding the end times. Thank you for tuning in today. Don Preston is the founder of Preterist Research Institute, or PRI. Don is a prolific author, having written and published 19 books, a host of audio and DVD studies, and is a debater and defender of the full preterist view. His websites are BibleProphecy.com, Eschatology.org, and DonKPreston.com. William Bell is the founder of AllThingsFulfilled.com Ministries and has a website bearing the same name, and has authored 3 books, audios, and DVDs. He has published hundreds of articles and recordings. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two Guys and a Bible broadcast with Don Preston and William Bell.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thought William Bell was with us. I do not hear him. I do not know if anyone can hear me. I think I'm on the internet. If you can hear me, then I would just make this comment very, very quickly. As of about 45 minutes ago, someone had cut a major cable line here in Ardmore, and all internet service was down. I'd actually called William and told him that it looked like I wasn't going to be able to be on. He suggested that he call me on my cell phone, and so he evidently tried to call, but in the meantime, they got right on the repair, obviously, and it shows that I'm on air. I heard the intro for our program. Thank you, Rod. That's good to know. I appreciate that. I don't know where William Bell is. I'm going to send William a text, and he may be able to hear me, but I cannot hear him at all. So I don't know what the situation is. You know, from time to time we have these technological issues here on Blog Talk Radio, and it's mostly a mystery to me. But in the meantime, I just sent William a text asking him where he is, and perhaps he's having technical difficulty. Perhaps he can actually hear me. Perhaps he will contact me back here momentarily and let me know that, something is going on. In the meantime, what you need to know is William will not be with us next week. William will be returning to Ghana. He has some absolutely fantastic things going on there insofar as establishing a church, getting some things going insofar. William says he can hear me. Well, that's good, William, but I cannot hear a word from your side. So I have no earthly idea what's going on. Just don't know what to say. Maybe you can do something. Maybe you can work your techno wizardry and get online here with us to where we can hear you. But anyway, William will be in Ghana, Africa, next week, carrying on that work that he has been involved in with Solomon Baidu. I believe it may be the correct pronunciation of that. And I tell you, as I've said before, it's just absolutely thrilling and exciting to know and to be a small part of what William is doing over there, the long-term implications, the long-term ramifications of the groundwork and the foundation that William is laying along with the locals that are there is just ultra exciting. And so I want to encourage everyone to have William and to have that work there in Ghana in your prayers, to assist and to aid in any way that you can. because, like I said, it's absolutely stunningly amazing and exciting to know of the work. I can't wait for William to get back. He'll be gone for approximately a week. And then right here on Blog Talk Radio, on Two Guys in a Bible, a voice you can trust, I am due to have William Bell will be the moderator, timekeeper, rules keeper, et cetera, et cetera. I'll be having a 2-hour formal radio debate here on our program. On Facebook just recently, Mr. William Vincent posted claiming that Matthew 16, 27, and 28 is absolutely not a prediction of the second coming. I took issue with that, but Mr. Vincent also posted that not only is Matthew 16, 27, and 28 not the second coming, but that he would debate anybody on the issue. I immediately answered that challenge and accepted that challenge. And so when William gets back from Ghana, we will be having that debate here on Two Guys and a Bible. So I want you to be aware of that. I want you to spread the news. We want to have a wide listenership to that debate. And I've already had one debate with Mr. Vincent on whether Daniel chapter 7, 13 and 14, which describes the coming of the Son of Man on the clouds of heaven to receive a kingdom. Mr. Vincent took the position that was a reference to the ascension of Christ in Acts chapter 1, which, by the way, is a position that I once took. But when a person actually reads the text, when a person actually honors the context, you cannot take that position. And so after 2 installments on YouTube of that debate, Mr. Vincent dropped out, completely disappeared. He failed to continue that debate, and that's rather unfortunate. I thought the debate was just going swimmingly well, as a matter of fact. But based upon my last negative, I can well understand why Mr. Vincent decided to withdraw. So we will see how this debate goes. Again, the issue is, does Matthew 16, 27 and 28 predict the second coming? Now, Mr. Vincent takes a position that it talks about the glorification of Christ. He takes that as being fulfilled on the Mount of Transfiguration, Matthew chapter 17. He takes that as Christ's resurrection. He takes that as Christ's ascension. So he takes this prediction of the coming of Christ and the glory of the Father, and to the very best of my knowledge, he applies it to at least 3, perhaps 4 different events. At one time, he actually even included the fall of Jerusalem in the sequence of events, the narrative of the glorification of Christ. I do not know if he still is willing to take that position or not. We shall see. He was actually supposed to have submitted some formal proposition for his affirmative for me to consider whether or not it is something that I want to agree to debate, or whether it's going to be so vague, so ambiguous, so nebulous as to be, allowable of almost anything. Part of the key to any successful debate, folks, is making sure that you have a proposition that is very carefully, that is very properly, that is very specifically defined. And so I sent Mr. Vincent a message on Facebook today urging him to send me a properly defined, properly worded affirmative proposition that he wants to affirm. I'll be really honest, I don't know if he did that or not. I've been sort of kind of running around today. I found out that a good friend of mine here in town had passed away suddenly, totally unexpectedly. And so I've been somewhat involved with that today. But anyway, all of that aside, that's something for you to be looking forward to. We will be announcing that. We will be promoting that debate here. We will be promoting the debate on YouTube. We will be promoting the debate on Facebook, so be watching those venues. I'll be having an announcement of it on my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. So we want everyone to have the opportunity to tune in and to listen to that debate. We will be posting the debate on YouTube after it is finished. I'm sure there will be a link posted to the YouTube video or audio as well. And so we want everyone to have as much access to that discussion as is possible. William, I still don't hear you. In case in case you're there, and in case you're trying to get on to where I can hear you. So keep trying if you would. We certainly want to hear from you this evening. And so on to other things, folks. I do want to remind you also other things going on. I got a really, one of those really, really cool. I mean, I get an awful lot of these, to be honest about it. Emails from individuals. I get private messages on YouTube. I get private messages on Facebook, and I get public notices and what have you. But I got this private message today from a gentleman from Nigeria. He had just recently discovered our YouTube videos. And as he says, he has been binge watching ever since. He is absolutely thrilled with what he is finding. He said, I had come to believe that dispensationalism was deeply flawed. And he said, I had begun to see the significance of the fall of Jerusalem. But it was not until I started viewing your videos that I began to put all of the pieces together. And so here's a gentleman in Nigeria that is super, super excited. There's another gentleman from Nigeria that I have been hearing from, is so eager. Now, he's a minister, by the way, and he has been asking for some financial help. Now, that's very, very common when we're dealing with overseas people. There's a sentiment in lots and lots of third world countries that all Americans are extremely wealthy, that we've just got more money than we know what to do with, and that all they've got to do is ask. And I'm not trying to be negative here, and I'm not trying to be caustic by any means, but there certainly seems to be an attitude among many from overseas that Americans just have more money than we need. Well, we certainly are blessed, and there's no question about that. But that doesn't mean that we have tons and tons of money to just give away. But this individual has been asking for help to buy a portable microphone system so that he can go into the cities and preach. He has been asking for help with some translations of the Bible in his language so that he can pass them out and help people to understand the Word of God. And, at this point, I just simply have not been able to help him financially. If anyone has an interest in perhaps supporting that, I will be happy to kind of, I'll use the term oversee that, kind of guide that process if you wish to give that. So if you're listening and you have an interest in perhaps helping purchase a portable microphone system, speaker system, to help this individual preach the word there in Nigeria, just get a hold of me. And, I've heard from people from Norway. I have heard from people from Sweden. I have heard from people from many different venues over the last, week and a half. Many of them saying that they have just now discovered the YouTube videos. And so as we continue to share the word in whatever venue that we have, folks, if you haven't checked out William Bell's YouTube video, All Things Fulfilled, you need to do so. He posts his videos of his radio program that he produces every week. And it's just absolutely chock full of great teaching. And of course, I have my YouTube videos. He has his YouTube outlet. I have my Facebook and what have you. So listen, as I say very, very often, and by the way, don't forget, on Saturday afternoons, Saturday evenings. William Bell is on the Now TV network with a 30-minute program. I am on every Friday morning at 9:30 on Now TV, and you just have to go to the NowTV.com network, network program, and do a search to find our programs. Or perhaps, I think I just heard William get on. Did I hear you, William?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. William, perhaps you could help us out on how people can find our radio or TV programs on Now TV.
Okay. Yes, you can go to Facebook and just look for the Now Network, and just tune in at the appropriate time, and the show will automatically come on. You can go to thenownetwork.org, and again, you can pull it up that way. Now, it's also on several channels around the country. You can get them on Roku, and so I would suggest that you look them up on your smart TV devices, and you'll be able to find some of those channels. I just had done the paper the other day that had all of the channels that we are available on, and if I can pull that out shortly, I will just give you a note and let you know, and we'll come back before the end of the broadcast and make all of those available. So if you want to just watch it on your regular TV using Roku or one of the channels on the smart TVs, you can do that as well. And, I've watched it on there. The show looks great from that perspective. And it's a great way to continue to engage in the studies of eschatology from that perspective. And we want you to to share that information. So when you're on any of these social media outlets, be sure and hit the share button. You have no idea how powerful that is, because you have a list of friends, associates, people who know you that do not know us. And when you post the video or the recordings on your page, or hit that share button where they have access to others through your news feeds, etc., then you've just double, triple, quadruple our reach, and new people get an opportunity to hear. So that's one of the things that I try to emphasize. Sometimes I forget it, even on Sunday mornings, and that is to say to people, please share. Just hit that share button, and it always has a very positive effect on the number of people who get the opportunity to hear during a particular week or broadcast. So that's the way that everyone else can help the process and help us to spread the word. And that's why, you keep having people, like Don said a moment ago, call and talk about the YouTube videos and the Facebook teachings, et cetera, because they have access to them. And we know that we have done a very good job and are doing a very good job. And it's not just Don and myself. There are several others out there who are doing a fantastic job. They're holding debates. They are engaging people on their radio programs, and they are interacting in conversations on Facebook and in private messages as well. As a matter of fact, my brother called me the other day, and he said one of the local preachers here has been inquiring of him about some things, and so he asked him to get in touch with me. So they are trying to set up a meeting to speak with me here locally, and that'll be a big change in terms of things that have happened over the years, that we get an opportunity to speak with someone locally, and so we hope that comes about. But he's encouraged that, and we just need a door or two to open here, and that will make a huge difference. So they're just opportunities. And I know Don was telling you a little bit about the trip that we have to Ghana. We have, a few people lined up to have some discussions there. We're really trying to lay some groundwork there for future studies and growth. We'll be taking over some books. I want to thank Don for sending a box of books that we're going to take over, and I had some that we're taking over. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to get all that weight over there, but it's a problem that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to resolve and take care of, and they're looking forward to having that. So just imagine being able to share all those years of study and knowledge with them that Don has put together in his books and give that to them. And they're very eager. They're very willing to study. They're very courageous and convicted. And it's just amazing to see. And I know that some good is going to come out of that. You know, we're hoping to get something solid on another congregation that Solomon has been working with. And so we're looking forward to getting that going. We have some other things going as well. So it's just a great time. And, you know, we're looking forward to some very positive things there, and appreciate all the support and all the encouragement you give. And that's just, you know, keep us in your prayers as we go. And, you know, I know with that, things should do just fine.
I was going to ask you, William, is Leora going with you this time?
Yes, she is. Now, she didn't want me to tell anybody that since you asked me. So, ladies and gentlemen, you did not hear from me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Shouldn't have asked that. Yeah, I do apologize for that. Was not thinking, but obviously we wish you good speed in your travels and in your work and labor over there. It's just so tremendously exciting. Can't wait to get you back and hear another report of how things go. I'm very, very eager to hear about the young woman that you were telling me about earlier, who was sleeping on the porch, but who has been taken in and is being fed and clothed. And I'm very, very eager to know about that situation.
Well, thanks. I look forward to bringing some of that information back.
All right, folks. Well, let's dig back into Isaiah chapter 66. We're talking about the Messianic Temple. On YouTube just today, I got this message from an individual. You know, it's kind of interesting how people approach and react when they are hearing something, learning something that they have never learned before, that is challenging to them. On one of my YouTube videos in which I was establishing the fulfillment of all prophecy, one individual simply posted a response, obviously intended as a challenge, and that response was, well, you say all things are fulfilled. Well, if all things are fulfilled, where's the Messianic Temple promised in Ezekiel 40 to 47? And we get that kind of response on a fairly regular type of basis. People do not answer the arguments or the information and the evidence that is presented in the video. They don't touch it. They don't mention it. Instead, they offer what I call a Yalbut argument. And what I mean by that is they're saying, yeah, what you're saying may be true, but so I call it the Yalbut type of argument. They don't know how to answer the material that has been presented, whether that's in a debate, private conversation, the video, or radio. It doesn't matter what it is. They hear it, they recognize the power of it. They don't know how to answer it, so their only response is, well, yeah, but. Well, a yeah, but doesn't answer anything. It's really kind of a desperate attempt to deflect from the power of the argument that's been made. You know, over the last several days on Facebook, there's a Church of Christ minister who makes a fairly common habit of disappearing for good long periods of time when one of us, William or myself or some others, when we just really nail his hide to the wall for all practical purposes' sake, and to use that terminology, we present material that he cannot answer, that he will not answer, and so he does not answer. So he'll disappear for a little while. Then all of a sudden he'll pop back up on a brand spanking new discussion, and invariably, the point that I just made takes place. And what I mean by that is, he has been posting in response to my YouTube videos on the Olivet Discourse. Now, in my YouTube videos on the Olivet Discourse, lately I've been examining the nature of apocalyptic literature and language, that it is hyperbole, that it is metaphoric, and I've been demonstrating all of that with exegesis by going to text and showing that the text cannot be taken literally. So what does this individual do? He pops up and he makes some kind of a really snide comment, such as, well, the undeniable reality is that Don Preston teaches a different gospel from what Paul taught. And once again, he does not address a single word of the video, does not address a single argument that I made, doesn't even address the same subject that I discussed. He just throws it out there, Don Preston's a heretic, he's preaching a different gospel. And it does not matter what questions I ask him. Over the last few days, I have been asking him some absolutely direct questions in regard to the fulfillment of the law and the fulfillment of the last 3 feast days. He will not even hit one key in response to the arguments and the questions that I offer. And that's what I call, that's a form of but. Because this individual knows he cannot answer the material and the information that is being offered in the videos. He knows he can't do that. And then we have, and by the way, even as we are talking, there is a group of preterist ministers who are trying to call in to the Wilson Road Church of Christ. Not sure exactly where that is, but William, you've had experience with them. And this group of ministers has, preterist ministers, has been calling in, trying to ask questions, trying to answer questions about covenant eschatology. And
they're in Humble, Texas.
1 minute. Oh, it's in Humble, Texas. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So one minister by the name of Trent Parrott called in, tried to address some of their issues, tried to answer some of their questions. They blocked him. They won't even let him call in now. He even asked why one of them was not willing to debate. And the guy that he challenged to debate, John Watson, a minister from Indianapolis, I had a debate with him in 2008. Now, I must admit, I probably didn't do the very best job in that debate that I ever have in a debate, because after all, during the entirety of the debate, I had double pneumonia. I would literally leave that venue. I would go back to the room and just, how should I express this? I would get rid of everything I had eaten. So anyway, so here is this group of individuals, ministers on this Wilson Road Church of Christ. The irony of what they're doing, blocking ministers from calling in, blocking ministers from answering their questions, blocking ministers from asking questions, is so ironic because they advertise their program. Okay, part of their lead-in to their program is, if you have a Bible question, feel free to call in. Feel free to email us. We will be more than happy to answer any question you may have. And yet, when Holger Neubauer got in on a Sunday afternoon recently and attempted to ask a question, they just told him, you're not allowed to ask questions on our radio program. This is our show, not yours. And they forbade him and others from asking questions. And you, William, you've had your own experience with this radio program, a less than stellar interaction with them. They are typical of the Yabut folks. They want to be able to say their thing. They do not want to answer any argument. They do not want to interact with anyone on a solid, saying mature Christian level. Those of us who are preterists, as one commentator on that program said over the last week, those of us who are preterists are some of the most ungodly people on the face of the earth. Now just think about that, folks. Those of us who believe and who teach that God is faithful, that Jesus made his predictions about the time of his coming and the nature of his coming. And preterists are the only group of Christians who affirm with full confidence that Jesus kept his word, that therefore he is the Son of God, that therefore the Bible is inspired. And yet we're called heretics. We are called ungodly. The irony here, as William and I have said through the years, as this has happened to us over and over and over and over again, the irony here is just, it's eyeball deep of how the only people in the world who affirm the faithfulness of God, the fulfillment of Jesus' promises and prophecies, we are the ones called heretics. And I just saw with an announcement that another one of them got blocked as they tried to call into the program. So they're evidently, really, really doing their best to call in to engage on that program, and yet they're being blocked. They don't want anybody calling in discussing this issue. They just want to talk about it and talk about how evil and wicked it is. It's absolutely amazing. So, well, that's maybe enough of that soapbox. I will suffice it at that. William, you want to offer any comment on this?
As you said, it is amazing that they do that. I mentioned before that I had contacted one of the gentlemen on that show and offered to debate him, and he wrote me back basically saying he was going to do it, and then I think somebody tipped him off in terms of who I was, because he didn't know who I was. I had listened to his show a couple of times, and once he figured that out, he decided he didn't want to even talk to me anymore. And what they do is they feel as though they have the authority, the power, the right, and the privilege to determine who gets the opportunity to hear or to extend a platform to someone. And that was the thing that they started in Memphis a long time ago by saying, we don't want to give him a platform, as though they own the cattle on 1,000 hills. And
exactly.
So that's what they've done. And that was, before the internet. It was before all this social media, et cetera, when we didn't have access before, the ease of WordPress and websites and things that we have available to us now, that has made us all broadcasters, and all podcasters. And so it was, we're not going to give them a platform. That meant that you couldn't go in their congregation and say anything about this view, or even get on their property for that matter, because they didn't want you anywhere near them. And so as long as they could do that, they felt like they were effective because they were controlling all the turf. However, when we began to use websites, and some of those websites that came on very early had just literally hundreds of thousands of hits on them. I can think of two of them that did that particularly. And, so many more people got exposed to the teaching of covenant eschatology. And then when we began to do websites and then eventually internet radio programs, because, they called in and got me shut down on one of the local radio broadcasts that I was doing, and, manipulated that situation in some way. And then we've got these broadcasts and podcasts that we have now, and there's nothing they can do about it. Absolutely nothing. And this is why people from around the world and around the country and around the city, et cetera, are learning. They're growing. They're being exposed to it, and they're finding out that, they are hiding something. They don't want to talk about it. They're afraid to discuss it. They do not want to put it out in the open and have, an open discussion for the most part. And so they just feel like they can control all the territory. Well, we just keep blasting inside the homes and inside the, their cars and every other place on their websites and Facebook pages, et cetera, where we can. And then all of the literature that's out that people have, and, you can copy down articles and just slip them in your Bible and take them on and share this information, and even tracks and everything. So we just continue to put the word out and just let you know that they can't control the show. This is God's earth. He's the one that owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And just let the word go forth, and he'll find those who are willing to hear it and willing to respond to it, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, amen to that. And, there's another thing. They not only want to control the conversation, but they come across, and I made comment to several, particularly Church of Christ ministers on Facebook that have attacked you and me vociferously. But I have taken note of the fact that they come across as inquisitors. And by that I mean they come across as men who believe that they are in the authority, and that they, to go back to exactly what you're saying here, they think that they are the ones who have the right to determine what will be discussed, how it will be discussed, the groundwork, the framework, and they believe that they have a right to sit on trial of us and to put us on trial as if they had that kind of inquisitor's authority. Very, very often, I think, as I read some of their comments, I think about a group of 3 or 4, Roman Catholic inquisitors back during the Dark Ages, and they've gathered some poor soul in front of them, and they've made an accusation against them. They've already determined that he's guilty. They've already determined they're going to burn him at the stake. But for the sake of, quote, fairness, unquote, what do? Well, here's the charge against you. Do you wish to answer the charges? Yes, Your Honor, I do. Well, never mind. We don't want to hear it. You're guilty. Burn him at the stake. That's the kind of attitude that is portrayed by an awful lot of these individuals on social media. And I've made the comment with some of them before. And I had one individual, he is of the Greek Orthodox persuasion. He said if it was up to him, we would be burned at the stake. And another individual, who is actually the head of a Reformed seminary, said that when his words were, when we, and by that he means the postmillennialists, when we take over, there will be a real simple solution to the heresy of preterism, and it's called a bullet to the brain. And so that mentality, it's difficult to imagine that kind of a violent mentality is out there, still powerful in the world today. And it's that attitude of the Inquisition that still remains with us today. The great thing about it is, as William put it so well a moment ago, they don't have that authority anymore. They cannot control social media. And so here we are, and the word is growing in spite of what they say, and there's not one single thing they can do about it. And it's just absolutely, it's hilarious.
I want to add one other point to that sense of authority that they have, and what happens in those scenarios. Now, what you have really, especially, and this happened in my case, and if you're someone that is either well-known or at least, in your circle of influence, you're known, and that's usually true of any preacher in a local area because he's known by several congregations there, depending on how they interact one with the other. You will have a group of people who know you and that have been following you for a while, or, are acquainted with you, who will ask them to, have you spoken with him? Have you had a meeting with him and sat down and tried to discuss this with him, et cetera? Well, now what that does is it puts them on the spot, because instead of just, doing the inquisition and just ramroding it down and saying, okay, we came together and this is the charge, and you say you agree with those charges, so that's heresy and that's the end of it. No, what they have to do in order to appease the people who are asking them, have you spoken with them? And see, the people are going to take their words for it, and they know that. So what they will do is they will have a meeting that looks every bit like it is an open meeting for a discussion, et cetera. Let you give your presentation. They won't answer any arguments. They can't answer any arguments as far as it goes, and that becomes obvious in the meeting. And then when it's over, they will say something like, well, you see, it's heresy. They haven't answered any arguments. They haven't responded to anything. They can't. And then when it's done, then they go back and say, yes, we have met with him. And that satisfies their conscience, and it satisfies their, that requirement that they have, if you please, that the people are demanding to hear. But they will never allow you, or generally they don't allow you to have the meeting in front of the people so they can see exactly what happens. And that's very, very interesting in the way that they try to conduct those things. It's always one where they want you behind a closed door so they can be in control of everything. They usually have, more people there than you, because it's just you. Most of the cases when you just have, and you're just starting out or whatever, you just have one person who understands it, so who teaches it. And so you got 10 or 12 guys there, and they're all going to be in agreement that, okay, it's wrong, let's get rid of it. But that's kind of another part of the scenario that people may not be aware of. A lot of times it's people in these congregations or the pews that want to hear the open discussion, and they refuse to allow them an opportunity to do it. They determine that the people that they are teaching are incapable, are not intelligent and wise enough to make decisions about what the Word of God is, so they do it for them.
Well, that's exactly true. I mean, certainly in my own personal experience, that is precisely the way things happened. The eldership at the congregation where I was here in Ardmore, Oklahoma, the congregation was going to them and was asking them, have you met with Don? Have you met with Don? Well, they didn't want to meet with Don until finally the pressure was so great that they said that they would study with me. And I even asked them. I asked the elders when they finally relented and said that they would study with me. I said, that is absolutely wonderful, brethren. I said, how long are you willing to study with me in order to fully understand this concept and this doctrine, to see whether or not it has validity? When I asked them that question in a room, they literally started looking out of the corner of their eyes at one another, because they had obviously not discussed how long they were willing to study with me. And they sat there silent, absolutely stone dead silent for the longest time. And finally, one of them spoke up and said, well, I suppose we'll be willing to study with you for however long it takes for us to understand exactly what it is you're saying. I said, brethren, that's absolutely wonderful. I said, but let me assure you, this is not something that you study once or twice and understand, because this doctrine permeates the Bible from the first of the book to the last of the book. Oh, well, okay, sure. That's not a problem. We'll be happy to study for however long that it takes for us to understand. We studied, although the word study is not the right term or the right word to use to describe what went on, but we met 3 times. And after we met 3 times, they just simply said, well, we've heard enough. We don't need to know anything. We don't need to know anymore. We know everything that we need to know. And yet when I would ask them some really, really, really super basic questions about basic doctrines of eschatology, they couldn't even begin to answer. They could not even begin to answer. It was so obvious that they, number one, they were 100% clueless about what they personally believed about eschatology. They were 100% clueless about what the Bible actually teaches about eschatology. And third, one of them had gone to Oklahoma City and gone to the Bible department of what used to be called OCC. It's just simply called OC now, OC. And said, okay, we got a preacher who's teaching AD 70, blah, blah, blah. How do I answer it? That professor gave them some answers. This particular elder did not know, did not grasp, did not at all grasp the substance of the questions. When I answered the questions and asked a following question, he invariably gave the right biblical answer, and it got so comical that one of the elders sitting next to him, after this elder, who was the chief inquisitor that day, that elder had answered one question after another that I had posed. I had answered his question and then asked follow-up questions. He had answered each one of my questions correctly and did not even understand that he was destroying his own doctrine. And as I said, it was so comical that an elder sitting next to him, after he had answered one of my questions, reached over, put his hand on his arm, and said, Bill, you're taking Don's position. Your answers support what Don is saying. And he looked over at him and he said, What? What did you just say? He said, you just answered in a way that agreed with what Don is saying. And he goes, I did? I mean, it was in that room on the part of the eldership was absolutely appalling. So that's what we encountered.
I wanted to say something else in addition to that. On that note, is they go into these meetings, and just as you say, they are not qualified to discuss the subject because they haven't studied it. They don't understand it, and they don't know. And after they do meet and not understand what's going on and, how to understand and exegete these passages, someone from the outside who has some clout, like a big name preacher or preachers, will then call them and tell them what to do about it, which is basically, give you the pink slip or axe or whatever, and that happens as well. So you have to understand.
That is precise.
And the reason they do it is because they don't want to be put in the position of having to defend their position. So they use their influence to tell these elders and others, well, fire them, get rid of them, etc. And if you can get rid of them and get them out of sight, then we don't have to deal with it.
That's precisely what happened in my case when the eldership here simply absolutely could not answer really simple questions on eschatology. I mean, some of the most fundamental, rudimentary type of questions that I would pose to them, and I would give them the scriptures to read, and they would read it, and as in the case of this one elder, he would answer it correctly. He would read the text and say, well, it says this, and that's what it says, and literally did not have the depth of knowledge, did not have enough academic background and intellectual prowess, and I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just simply saying what the situation was. He literally did not have the mental acuity to know that the answer that he had given from the text was fully supporting what I was saying, that Don Preston was agreeing with the scripture, but now they're accusing Don of being a heretic And yet, when Don asks them to explain the Scripture, they give the correct answer, not understanding that they're placing themselves in the heretic camp. But again, what you're saying there is absolutely true. My eldership informed me that they were receiving phone calls from literally all over America. And I asked one of them when he mentioned that to me, I said, well, I think I know the answer to the question, but I said, what are all of these phone calls about? And they said, well, they're demanding that we fire you. They're telling us we have to fire you. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in congregational independence and autonomy? Well, absolutely. Absolutely. We're not going to allow other people to tell us what to do. And yet they wound up doing exactly what all of these elderships, all of these preachers, all of these professors told them they're supposed to do. And all the while trying to give some semblance of congregational authority and autonomy, when in reality they had totally kowtowed, totally submitted to the peer pressure of the rest of the brotherhood that told them, without proving their case, but told them that they had a heretic preaching for them. And so, you know, let me say this. I think William touched on it ever so slightly a bit ago. You know, this is what any preacher has to go through, and it doesn't matter if it is in the churches of Christ, Baptist, Presbyterian, it just doesn't matter. You know, years ago, David Curtis from Virginia Beach called me up. I'd never heard the name. I did not know him from Adam, as the saying goes. And he called me up and he said, you know, Mr. Preston, you don't know me. And he said, this has got to be one of the strangest phone calls you've ever received, because I'm a Baptist and you're a church, member of the Church of Christ. But he said, I need some help. And he had started teaching covenant eschatology and was being accused of heresy. And he said, what do I do? And I said, well, the best thing that I know for you to do is to hunker down and pray a lot. Because I said, here's what's going to happen. And I just laid it out. I said, some of your best friends, some of the people that you think are your best friends in the world are going to turn on you like vicious, rabid dogs. Some of your friends, some of your so-called friends, are going to tell outright, blatant lies about you. And I gave illustration of what had happened to me right here in Ardmore, Oklahoma, of people that actually started spreading lies that my wife and I were about to get a divorce. When I traced down where that rumor was coming from, I confronted that individual to the face. And I said, did you start that rumor? And he just grinned and said, yeah, I sure did. And I said, but you know that's a lie, don't you? And folks, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. His response was, yeah, but I'm going to get you fired. And when I get you fired, I'm going to walk down the aisle and repent and ask for forgiveness. And I said, well, you know, brother, I said, there is such a thing as premeditated sin for which there is no forgiveness. And I said, you need to think long, hard, and seriously about what you're doing. You just admitted that you are purposely and willfully lying about me. So I shared that with David Curtis. I said, here's what's going to happen. And he said, no. He said, these people are my friends. These are my family. He said, they're not going to do that. And I said, well, David, I said, I may be wrong, but I'm not. I said, this is happening all over America, even as we speak. And I said, the names have been changed to protect the guilty. That's all you can say about it. And I said, you can hope, you can pray that it will not happen. And I said, I will even join you in prayer that it does not happen. But I can absolutely assure you these things are going to happen. And when they happen, you are going to be devastated if you are not prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually to be betrayed by your brethren. And he just told me, he said, Don, I just don't think it'll happen. He said, I love these people. They love me. I've been with them for many, many years. And he said, I just can't imagine it happening. Well, a period of months passed, maybe not even months. And my phone rang, and it was David. And he said, you know, Don, when I called you before, you warned me what was going to happen. And he said, I told you it wouldn't. But he said, it's like you had a written script. And he said, every single thing that you said was going to happen, right down to the very words that you said would be stated. It happened. He said, some of the people that I have cherished as some of the very best friends that I've had in this world have turned on me. I've had members of the church lie about me. And he said, every single thing that you said was going to happen has happened. And he said, I have never been so disappointed in all of my life. He said, I just simply don't know what to say. And I said, well, as I told you before, I wish that I would have been wrong. I could pray that I would have been wrong. But I've seen the script, I've seen the story, I've seen the act, seen that movie before. And the names are different, the venues are different, but people do not change. When you challenge their paradigms, when you challenge their traditions, they're going to react. And unfortunately, some people believe that as long as they are fighting what they believe to be is false doctrine, when they believe that what they're fighting is dangerous heresy, they literally believe that it is okay to lie, that it is okay to bear false witness against people that they previously called their friend and their brother in Christ. That's human nature, unfortunately. And it's not going to change at all. And of course, the rest is history, as they say. And we have seen and we continue to see this very, very sad drama play out all across America. You know, it happened to you, it happened to me, it happened to David, it happened to Larry Siegel. It has happened to any, and to Jack Scott. It has happened to any number of ministers. With this group of ministers that has been trying to call in to this radio program, as I continue to get these notifications, it is more than obvious that the people from that Wilson Street Church of Christ have no intention or desire to open their hearts, open their mind, to even consider the truth of covenant eschatology. They are willing to act in literally ungodly ways to prevent the word from being heard. Well, you know, William, we didn't get on the Messianic Temple tonight. We just decided to kind of share some very personal information here. Our listeners very often tell us that they appreciate us doing this. So, folks, I hope that something that we have said tonight will give you hope, perhaps give you courage. perhaps give you encouragement in your walk with the Lord, to do what is right, to follow the truth, to be Bereans no matter what, believing in the Lord and in His Word. And with that, I'm going to say thank you again so much for joining us here on Two Guys and a Bible on Fulfilled Radio, a voice you can trust. With that, I will say good night and God bless.
Thank you for joining the Two Guys and a Bible radio broadcast. On behalf of Dunn Preston and myself, we'd like to say have a very pleasant day and may God bless. Until next time, we'll see you on Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust.